Hello everyone. Let's review shlokas 78, 79 and 80 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Bhaktimat-kalpalatikā paśupāśa vimochanī saṃhṛtāśeśha pāśhaṇḍā sadāchāra pravartikā tāpatrayāgni santapta samāh lādana chandrikā taruṇī tāpasārādhyā tanumadhyā tamoapahā chitistatpada lakśhyārthā chideka rasarūpiṇī svātmānandalavībhūta brahmādyānanda santatiḥ. Let's look at the meanings of the namas. Bhaktimat-kalpalatikā. Kalpa here means the kalpa vriksha, the wish fulfilling tree. Latika means a creeper. Bhaktimat-kalpalatikā. Bhaktimat means one who is devoted to her. So, if somebody is devoted to her, she fulfills all their wishes. So, she is the wish fulfilling creeper of the devotee. Bhaktimat-kalpalatikā. Paśupāśa vimochanī. So, Pashu here represents us, the human beings. Pāśam is the bonds that we have. We are all bound by three things. So, one is the ānavamala, which is the inherent sense of lack or limitation, which is why we are always seeking something. And then there is the mayiyamala, there is a sense of separation, seeing the world as separate from us. And then there is karmamala, which is a sense of doership. We're thinking that if we do something, we are supposed to get the results of those actions, or the results of the actions are simply because of us. So that is called as the karmamala. So these are three things we are bound by, and this is what causes all the sufferings for human beings. So she is one who vimochanam means to release. So she releases this ignorance which makes the human beings stick to these three malas. So she removes these impurities and she releases this ignorance. So paśupāśa vimochanī. saṃhṛtāśeśha pāśhaṇḍā. Saṃhṛtā means is to destroy, so to cut off. So aseśha means without exception, everything. Pāśhaṇḍā means the false doctrine. So if you look at all human beings, fundamentally we are not aware of our true self, and this is called as avidya. And this results in a lot of problems for us. Because we don't know our true self, we assume something to be ourself, and that is the perception we have about us. We call that the identity. And based on that, we decide we like something, we don't like something. So we have ragam and dvesham, right? And because we have this ragam and dvesham and we have our own identity, we think we are unique. It's called as asmita, right? And then therefore we fear the loss of that unique thing, and that's through the death, and that further feeds into the ignorance. So this is a cycle that keeps on happening. So therefore there is all this false doctrine where we assume we are separate, and that's not true, and it's all the effect of Maya. She destroys all these false doctrines, and she destroys all these heretics that we have, which is not true. And sadāchāra pravartikā. Sat achara pravartikā. Sat means true or right, and acharam means practice or behavior. Pravartikā means to stimulate or to inspire. So she destroys all this false doctrine, she releases from the ignorance, she destroys all the false doctrine, and she inspires us towards the right behavior. And the right behavior is one of understanding who we are truly. Tāpatrayāgni santapta samāh lādana chandrikā. So every human being is afflicted by three types of suffering. That's what is called as tāpatrayāgni. Tāpam means suffering, traya means three, agni means fire. Santapta means being burnt by. So every human being is burnt by three types of fires. And one is the diseases in body and mind. So everybody is subject to those sufferings. We feel hungry, so there is a fire there. So there is body and mind related suffering. Diseases could be one, or things that we imagine it to be. Then there is all the suffering caused by nature. So all the earthquake and things like that. So everybody is subject to that. And then the last one is supernatural, which is all caused by things beyond us. And it could also be our karma, right? Because of the karma, there are certain sufferings that human beings suffer, and they don't even know why that happened. So every human being is subject to these three types of sufferings. So tāpatrayāgni, santapta. The santapta means being burnt by. Samāh lādana chandrikā. Samāh means to make it even. Lādana, to caress. So with her hands she makes it even and she cools it down. The fires are all cooled down like a chandrikā. Chandrikā means the moonlight. So like the moon, she cools it down. So if people are suffering from these three types of sufferings, which are body and mind, natural and supernatural types of suffering, she cools it down. Taruṇī. Taruṇī means she is ever youthful. And so she is the Nirguna Brahman, right? So the Nirguna Brahman, even though we may envision her as Lalita with a certain form and shape, ultimately she is the ultimate reality. She is the Nirguna Brahman. She has no form. And in that no form, she is also eternal. She never changes. And therefore, she is ever youthful. She is not subject to time. Tāpasārādhyā. Tāpasa means those people who undertake penance. Tapas means penance. Tāpasa means those who undertake penance. Ārādhya. Ārādhya means they worship. So she is worshipped by those people who undertake penance, which is nothing but the sages. Tanumadhyā, tamoapahā. Tanumadhyā means slender waisted. So madhya means the middle, so that references the waist. Tanumadhyā means slender waisted. Anytime we are seeing a reference to the slender waist, that means it references the kundalini. And there are several stages of kundalini. So, in the Mooladhara, she is called as Kula Kundalini, and then she raises, and then there is Bala, and then Taruṇī. So, there are different stages. So, Tanumadhyā references the Kundalini. So, when the sages continue to worship her, then the Kundalini raises, and what does it do? Tamoapahā. It releases. Apaha means to kidnap or to cut off, to take away. So what she takes away tamas. Tamas means ignorance. The fundamental ignorance, she removes that. So when she removes that fundamental ignorance, what is that fundamental ignorance? Not knowing our true nature. That we are one and the same as ultimate reality. Not knowing that is the reason for all the problems, all the sufferings. She removes that. The Kundalini energy raises and she removes that. And then what does she grant them? Chitihi. So that means she grants wisdom. Tatpada lakśhyārthā. So tat is the suchness. We say tat tvamasi. So it is the tat. Pada means word. Lakśhyārthā means she is the meaning of the word that. So she grants them wisdom and she shows them what it is that is. So she grants the meaning for that. Chideka rasarūpiṇī. And she is the rasa of wisdom. So she grants that wisdom. And what does that wisdom lead to? It leads to the bliss. And how is that bliss? Svātmānandalavībhūta brahmādyānanda santatiḥ. Svātmānanda means her bliss. Lavībhūta means, lavi means a drop. Brahmādyānanda, so the bliss enjoyed by Brahma and others. Santatiḥ, collection. So what does that line mean? It's been a conjugation of many words. What it means is all the bliss enjoyed from Brahma downwards, all the people put together, the collection, everybody, Brahma, all the other deities, all the bliss enjoyed by them is nothing but a drop of the bliss enjoyed by Lalita. Or all the bliss that can be granted by Brahma and others is nothing but a drop of bliss that can be enjoyed when we worship Lalita. So Lalita is the ultimate reality. So all the bliss enjoyed from Brahma downwards are just a drop of the bliss enjoyed by her. So this section of the 3 shlokas shows how she fulfills our wishes. And when the transformation occurs, when a person is able to reach to a point where they are understanding the unity of the experience, at that point that we become transmuted, in that we are able to let go of all our conditioned behavior and behave in a way however we want. And if we are able to remove all our conditioning and able to put our mind to anything, then we can get anything that we desire. So that's how she becomes the wish fulfilling creeper of the devotee. So let's look at a small story related to the nama Bhaktimat-Kalpalatikā. This is a story of how when you surrender to God, God takes care of everything that you need, even if you don't know to ask for that. So this is the story. Once upon a time, there was a king called Uttanapada, and this king was a son of Manu, and he had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi. And Suniti had one son, his name is Dhruva, and Suruchi had a son, his name is Uttama. So Suniti is the daughter of a tribal chief, and Suruchi is a daughter of a big king. And Suruchi is also more beautiful. So King Uttanapada was a little bit more attached to Suruchi. And Suruchi, while she had everything that she wanted, she was a bit upset because Suniti was the first wife and Dhruva was older than Uttama, which meant that after King Uttanapada, Dhruva would become the next king. So Suruchi couldn't put up with this. The Suniti is after all a tribal chief's daughter and her son becomes the king. So Suruchi hated Suniti and Dhruva, and using the love that her husband is showing, Suruchi was making every effort to banish Suniti and Dhruva, somehow make sure that Uttama becomes the next king. So she was torturing Suniti, and slowly she banished her from the palace, and Suniti lived close to the palace. So Dhruva also did not get the chance to be with his dad as much. One day Dhruva just entered the palace, and he saw in the palace garden King Uttanapada was sitting and Suruchi was standing next to him, and Uttama was sitting on his lap, and the king was smiling, and they both were talking. Uttama and the king were talking. Seeing this, Dhruva is only 5 years old. Naturally, he is also very eager. He wants to go sit in his father's lap. So he runs and he tries to sit on the other side from Uttama, the other lap. But immediately, Suruchi, who was standing next, pulled Dhruva, pushed him down, and he said, "You can't sit on his lap." And Dhruva, being a little boy, and he just wanted to sit in his, he said, "Why can't I sit?" And then he said, Suruchi immediately said, "No, only Uttama is qualified to sit. If you want to go sit, your mom always tells you stories about Narayana. Go ask that Narayana. If he helps, then you can sit. Otherwise, get out of here." And this little boy didn't understand what she was saying. Suruchi is an old woman. She's saying something. She has jealousy in her mind. The boy didn't understand anything. And then, but one thing he realized is, if Narayana says, he can sit on his dad's lap. That much he got out of it. So he ran home and he told Suniti what had happened. And Suniti felt very sorry. She was thinking, what kind of life this is. But what else to do? She had no other choice. She had to stay there, and her son being treated this way was something that she had to put up with. And she tried to console Dhruva, and she said, for poor people like this, Narayana is the only gati. We can't do anything. One day Narayana will give us some relief from all of this. Until that day, we just have to wait. So we just have to pray to Narayana. Now the boy heard both of this, and then it cemented in him that if he wants to sit in his father's lap, Narayana has to do something. And so he was thinking about this, and he thought, now let me go find where this Narayana is. And so he left the palace overnight, and he started to go towards the woods. And he was screaming everywhere, "Narayana, where are you? Narayana, where are you?" It so happened that sage Narada was in that woods, and he heard the boy. And he thought, oh my gosh, there is a little boy who's coming in the woods, and there are all these forests, and there is all these animals, lion and tiger and everything. The boy could be attacked, and he is the future king. So immediately sage Narada rushes to him and says, what happened? Why did you come here? And the boy says, what happened? He explains everything. I want to sit in my dad's lap. Only if Narayana decides I can sit in my dad's lap. So I want Narayana's help. So then sage Narada said, no, this is not right. You're a little boy. You cannot be in the forest. There are lots of dangerous animals here. Your mother will be searching for you. You can't leave like this in the middle of the night without telling your mother. She would have been so worried about you. You go back. Everything will become all right. But the boy is steadfast. He's saying, no, I'm not leaving here until Narayana comes and says that I can sit in my father's lap. And so sage Narada is looking at it, and he is surprised by how strong this boy is. So he has no other choice. He teaches him Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he teaches this mantra, and he tells him, you sit under this tree and keep saying this mantra constantly, then Narayana will come. So immediately Dhruva got that, and he went and sat under the tree, and he started to say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And initially it was a bit hard for him, and so he was also hungry and things like that. But slowly, as time passed, he was chanting and chanting and chanting. He got so into it that he even forgot to eat anything. He was just sipping water once in a while, but otherwise he got so involved in the chant, and he kept on chanting. And the chant was so intense that the whole universe was shaking with this chant. And then Lord Vishnu heard all these chants, and he was touched by the devotion of this little boy. So he came, and he told Dhruva, open your eyes. Now I have come, Narayana, I have come. So you should open your eyes. And the boy was, Dhruva was so intensely chanting. He had gotten so much into it. He had almost lost consciousness, any touch with any outside world. So when Vishnu came and asked him to open his eyes, he wasn't sure what was happening. And then Vishnu had to ask him repeatedly to open his eyes. And then he finally opened his eyes, and he saw Vishnu, and in the form that he had imagined. When he said Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he had imagined a certain form, and he saw Vishnu like that, and he was stunned to see what he was seeing in his mind's eye. He was seeing in reality. He was completely struck by that, and he had no words coming out of it. And so Vishnu asked him, you chanted, what is it that you want? And the boy had no words. He had nothing to say. And then Vishnu gently touched him with his conch, and that's when Dhruva started to speak. And as soon as he spoke, he did what's called as a Dhruva Stuti, which is 12 verses, and he sang all of that. And Vishnu was very pleased, and Vishnu asked, what is it that you want? And then Dhruva had started this whole thing because he wanted to sit on his dad's lap. That was his desire, and to fulfill that desire is why he started. But Dhruva had completely lost track of it. He didn't know what he wanted anymore. And so he just simply asked for a life where he doesn't forget Vishnu at all, and always to remember Vishnu. And so he just completely forgot the reason for, he had nothing to ask for. And that is the state that every tapasvi wants to be in, where you have no desires and all that you can think of is the Lord's name, right? And this boy was nearly 5 or 6 years old at that time and had no personal desire. So then Vishnu told him that, you know what, you are and he always wanted to be with Vishnu. And so Vishnu told him that you're just a little boy. Now is not the time to come to me, but you will grow up to become the king of your kingdom. You rule well. And once you finish ruling, you will come to me. And that's the thing that he granted. So meanwhile, the king Uttanapada came to know about this penance, and sage Narada had told him about it. King Uttanapada realized what a bad behavior he has shown. He was neither a good king nor a good father. As a father, he didn't allow his own son to sit in his lap, and as a king, he didn't protect the next to the throne. So he realized his mistake, and therefore, when Dhruva went back to the kingdom, the king was standing at the entrance of the, at the border of the city, and then he received Dhruva, and then from then on, Dhruva went to become the king. And then once he was done, he ruled for a long time. He was a very good king. And after he finished it, Dhruva became the pole star. That's why we call as the Dhruva Nakshatram, and he got a permanent place close to Vishnu. So this is a story of how God fulfills all our wishes. If you see with Dhruva, he started with some desire, but as he went through the path of chanting, he completely forgot. He was completely into God. But God not only fulfilled his desire of being able to sit on his father's lap, but he also made sure he became a king. So when we believe in God, God knows so much more than what we want. When we want something, our desires will be very limited. We are limited beings. Therefore, our desires are also limited. We just don't know what more there is to. But if we leave all of that to God, then God knows what we should get. And if we surrender all our worries to God, all our desires to God, then God will grant us what we need in life. That's all for today. Thank you.